The lady said it's recording, right?
Yeah. I think so.
All right. All right. Here we are on The Blind Man in Black. I'm Brian Snyder. And thank you for watching on YouTube and listening on Apple Podcast. And if you like the show, please rate, subscribe, and review. And if you don't like it, send it to your opposing political party. And I'm here with my co-host and wife. She's the former editor-in-chief of Atlas Obscura, co-founder of Odd Salon, and funeral counselor, writer, star of a Slayer video, I might mention.
Oh, good Lord. Star of TikTok, thanks to you.
Right. And if you want to see if you want to see us on TikTok being exhausting, go to the Exhausting Snyders. All right. So we're going to have a little bit of podcast on podcast action here. I wonder what the fuck was going on. Like, I'm like, why is this? It's like the sun is in here.
I was going to ask you what you were doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. Obviously, it's very obvious. And anyway, so we're here with comedian, actor, producer, writer, a good friend of mine, John Huck, podcast host, and that's what we're going to fucking talk about. John, how you doing, man?
Good, buddy. Good. How are you?
I'm adequate, but
okay.
I'm surviving. Yeah.
Appreciate your honesty.
Thank you. And now I'm really excited because I have not met our other guest, who is the producer of Speaking Highly with John Huck, Indy Fawcett. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having us. This is awesome.
Now, I got to ask you something. Are you in any way, I have two questions. Are you in any way related to Farrah Fawcett? And if yes, do you have feathered 70s hair?
There is a relation.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah. There is a relation. However, we've never met, or my families have never met. We've never gone to a reunion. There's no connection in terms of like us knowing them at all. But her, basically what I was told, and I haven't done the genealogy on this, but I was told by my parents that her grandfather and my dad's grandfather were brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. And her lineage goes back to Corpus Christi, Texas, and so does our lineage. So there's too many kind of indicators that it's that it probably is true. Although we don't have 100% confirmation on that, but I was told so.
Now, is there any genetic feathered hair though?
What would Rachel? You guys say? I don't think.
I mean,
it's fluffy.
If he grew it out, like, what's the longest your hair's ever been?
Oh, I've had heavy metal hair down halfway
down
my back, but it was very curly, but I had to brush it all the time.
You have to layer it.
Yeah, you could have had it. You could have had it feathered. You would just have to go get it feathered. Like, Farrah Fawcett's hair wasn't naturally like that. She had paid thousands of dollars to have her hair done or whatever. So you could definitely.
The potential is definitely there for it.
Yeah, Indy. Yeah, you could grow. So just grow your hair back, and then we'll wait here.
100%. Yeah.
I think we should. That's fascinating.
You were just fucking around, and you got a real answer there, huh?
Well, I thought it could go either way. I thought it could be like, no, absolutely no relation at all, or it could be this, which is what I wanted.
I was more thinking it would be like, she has a restraining order against my family. Our lineage goes back to Corpus Christi, where we did a lot of B&E and got in a lot of trouble.
And I'm ready to rush off to Ancestry.com to answer that question for you, Andy.
Is that, did you do that on 23andMe? Is that would that help?
You just do an Ancestry, you just trace it back.
Oh.
I'm
stupid.
I mean, we can
23andMe did a partnership. Yeah.
So while she's doing that, let's talk about how Speaking Highly with John Huck was born. It was born out of the pandemic, right?
Well, I would say
so?
I would say yes, because I think that gave Indy time to think about stuff. Like, I wasn't like in communication with him when everything went into lockdown. he called me like kind of months in, you know, and we had already, I mean, and jump in whatever you want, Indy, but like I met him. I did a web series called My Death Co., which is on YouTube. There's 6 episodes of it. They're short, but it's more of a proof of concept that it could be a television show. So that's sort of the active play with that idea right now, is trying to sell it as a TV show. But when I first started, it was just, we were doing these short clips and limited crew. And you know how when you make anything independently, there's no money, nobody's getting paid. So it's all like, hey, do you believe in this project, or do you like me enough to work for me for this day, you know? And the first day I showed up, you know, you're kind of looking around at who's doing what, and like, okay, like all these people seem to be over here, they're doing this. And then I see Indy, and he's just kind of moving all over the set, leaving set for minutes at a time, coming back with stuff. Like he's like always, I figured you were Sean's cousin or brother or something, because he was helping, you know, almost like, wow, dude, that guy would do it all if you let him, you know? And, you know, just that's how we met, from that, like just working together on that. And I think just a mutual, you know, we liked each other. We got along, you know, and again, you're on it's a small crew. It's a small set. It's kind of, you know, weird days when you do stuff like that. But if you're working with people you like, it's, you know, it's fun. But that's how we met. And then I think here's what I really think. In his mind,
he was stalking you.
No, I think in his mind, I was more popular than I am. So he was hey, he goes, hey, I bet we could do a podcast, and John would immediately get like all his fans would definitely tune in right away. And then we could monetize, and then I could start a network, and then I could use John as this jumping off point. And what he found out quickly was that I'm going to use him for the jumping off point. And I'm going to wait for him to draw fans to the podcast, because I'm not doing it that fast.
Well, I got to say, I love it. I've been listening since the beginning, and it's got really high production value. It sounds great. I have a feeling that the video is awesome too. Are you shooting in 4K or something?
Yeah, we're shooting in 4K, but I render in 1080, if that makes any sense. Make it look just that much more high quality.
Wow.
Yeah,
well,
Brian actually doesn't understand all that stuff, because you worked in post and stuff like that. Like you get
let's just say it is what it is. I worked in porn.
Well, yeah, but post in porn too, you know,
media is media, you know,
media is media. Yeah. And porn. And we all know pornography leads the way in new media, and like kind of determines which way everything goes, you know?
Yeah, you're right. I talked about that on Hollywood Anonymous, that Microsoft was giving us equipment, because they were in the HD DVD business against, you know, Sony Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody fucking remembers that there was HD DVD, but
I remember it because it was some porn came out like that.
It was probably the ones I gave you.
Exactly. I had a stack. I'd go over to your guys' house and come back with just a stack. Like, all right, I guess.
oh yeah. I'll take it off your hands. I
guess if you need me to get rid of it, I'll find a garbage can on the way home. I'll donate it to a shelter. You guys don't have any pornography. I'll take it to a dentist's office. They can run it on a loop.
Yeah, I feel like I gave you a box, and I remember we were trying to shop that TV series around, and I think I gave that guy you knew at Lionsgate like just a huge box of porn.
Okay, well that's insane. You mean the guy from NBC?
No, it was Lionsgate.
Who did I know at Lionsgate? Because I remember we went in to pitch that. It was a script, a TV show script about your life as a germaphobe in the porn industry, and I loved the concept and everything. And the first thing the guy said, like, I got us a meeting from a dude I worked with on an NBC hidden camera show. And the first thing he said, I was like, it's about the office and pornography. And he goes, let me stop you right there. We're already doing this show with P.T. Anderson. And I was like, oh, the guy who did Boogie Nights? He's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. And then that was it. And then I never saw that show. And our show
Yeah, I know. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why didn't they didn't, I almost wanted to say, I didn't have the balls at the time, but I wanted to say, but this is different. This isn't going to be Boogie Nights. This is what it really is.
Yeah.
But,
and you know what? And knowing what we know now and how the industry works, I think that would have been a smart thing to say, like, yeah, but this is different because everything happens like that. It's like nobody wants to make anything until one person makes something. And then it's like, dude, we need to get our version of this on right away. It's like,
right.
I don't want to make a movie about volcanoes. Well, Dante's Peak is coming out. Well, then let's put out the movie Volcano. Like it's that kind of, it's like that kind of shit that happens all the time in Hollywood. So for
Deep
them to
Impact.
have a show,
Armageddon.
Impact, exactly, dude. Exactly. Yeah. So if they were like, we have a Boogie Nights style show, it's like, well, what we're doing isn't Boogie Nights. It would be like 30 Rock in Studio 60. It's like, right. Boogie Nights, the way that they would do it would probably be more of a serious, kind of dramatic with the occasional humorous thing in there. Whereas we were going to tell it from a point of view that was more comical, I believed.
Yeah. Yeah. And
just because of who you are and your personality and you in the porn, we're like, if someone met you today and had spent 3 hours with you and then later on found out that you wrote Pirates, they'd be like, what, the guy with the sunglasses? What? Like, yeah, he wrote a very, very interesting porno movie that was really pricey to make. People be like, I don't know what, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And did you tell Indy you went to the premiere of Pirates?
I'm sure I told Indy we went to the premiere, but I don't know. I tell everybody. I'm like,
okay.
It was one of my first red carpets, and it was like all porn actors, and like the gift bag was all like dildos and DVDs and like, and then I remember being like, man, this is awesome. Like, you wrote this movie. This is awesome. And then I remember sitting down in the theater in like a row of dude friends and then being like, we're all about to watch a porno together. Like, this is weird. And then and we were watching a porno on the big screen and I was like, I want to go to the bathroom. And then when I went out to the bathroom, there were like all the women that were in the movie were all wearing like nice dresses. Like they were out. It was like an evening out. And they were all in the lobby smoking cigarettes, like standing inside the lobby smoking cigarettes. Like, this wasn't 1975. This was like 2000s. And they were like, fuck, I'm not going in there. Like, they were just like not into seeing the movie.
And it was the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood.
Yes, the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood, which is a landmark theater. It's a very historical building, if you will.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I was constantly having to tell the fire breathing dude to stay away from the fucking mural that's like historical. They kept coming at me going, you got to stop this, you got to stop.
But that was the thing, is like, you were the writer of the movie and you were also working the premiere. Like, no other in television movies, that doesn't happen. Like, if you were the like writer of Seinfeld, you don't go to the premiere party and then like work the door. You know what I mean? Like,
the loneliest part was when everybody left and I had to clean up and I was literally by myself.
I mean, that sucks, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like midnight and I'm like out. I remember seeing cups, like, the wind was blowing cups around on the ground. And
I'm like, sure we were all back in my apartment already, just being weirdos. Yeah.
And it was very lonely. And then I think I broke the mirror on the truck reversing out of the back of there.
Fuck.
And I was like, fuck, man, I got to explain this on top of everything else. Fuck.
I like how it's all your fault. It all comes down to you. You're like, the guy who wrote the movie's also cleaning up at the end of the night. It's just weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was. It was. Yeah. But let's get back to you and Indy.
Thank you, God. Finally.
Yeah.
About time. Yeah.
I was having
give the people what they want.
So, what? How did this idea come about? Because did he hear Hollywood Anonymous, or what happened? And I want you to explain it in his words, John.
Well, first of all, I'm not even aware that he's heard any of Hollywood Anonymous. I would imagine that he Google searched, "Do I have a podcast?" And then, and then when he realized that I didn't, because Hollywood Anonymous had ended, I want to say, like a month or two before he reached out, and it ended because we were just kind of burnt out on it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It wasn't like there was no bad blood. Brian is a father of two, and we weren't structured in any way Like we had guests that we liked,
Mhm.
and then we talked for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to be a real fan of either Brian or myself to listen to us ramble on for 2, you know what I mean? It was like,
Yeah.
I understood why we weren't growing. And
you realized that after you interviewed me.
and then you were one of the last ones, actually. No, you weren't. No, that's not true. That's not true. You were like a year before, but yeah, it just kind of one of those things. Like I could sort of see the writing on the wall, and then it just kind of came to an end. And Brian was like, "Yeah, I can't really do this anymore." I was like, "Yeah, I get it." So I was, I like doing podcasts. I think it's fun. I always had a good, like, in the very beginning, I didn't want to do one. I was like, oh man, what a terrible, I don't have anything to say. And then as soon as I started one with a buddy, I was like, oh man, who cares? I could just talk, and, I'm sure over the years I've said some dumb shit, but I don't think I've said anything too terrible, but I've enjoyed it and I've had a good time. And like the guests I've gotten to meet and talk to that I didn't already know has been fascinating, So when Hollywood Anonymous ended, I was like, I would still do one if I could find something that made sense or someone to do one with, and I brainstormed a little bit, like other comics I wanted, because I figured I had to have a co-host. I figured it would have to be an interview based show. I wouldn't want to listen to myself for an hour. That would be terrible. So I was just kind of in the process of barely thinking about it, I guess. And then Indy called and said, what, do you have any interest in doing a podcast? And I almost said, nah. But then I was like, I mean, maybe. And kind of in my head, I'm like, Indy's like a young kid who's knows more about this part of the business than me or Brian or any of my friends. I mean, we're old men at this point. In terms of Hollywood, we're old dudes. It's like Major League Baseball. Like I'm 46. If I was in the bigs, they'd be like, dudes, just put your hips back in and sit down, dude. Like and I feel like that can happen in this business. If you're older, you sort of start, your opinion becomes less and less important, which I understand in a sense, but at the same time, like having someone like Indy be interested in doing something was intriguing to me. Like being able to work with someone who's a lot younger, who understood when is a good time to release a podcast? How long should these be? Like this is the kind of shit that I never really understood or thought about, or didn't have any data to process and wasn't going to do that work. Like that's the other thing is, like, if we're being honest, I wasn't going to sit down and go, time for me to learn about podcast. There was just no way that was going to happen. So, and this was, early on in the lockdown. So I didn't really think we were going to be in there that long anyway. But then when Indy hit me up and we started kind of talking about it, there was a couple of phone calls back and forth. And then I think I was like, what can I remember I had like a phone call scheduled with him in like an evening. And that day I was like, what the fuck can I tell this kid? Like, what can we do? Like, what is a podcast that I could do? And I was like, I want to do something that I like. I want to talk about something I like every week. And I don't want it to be limited. I don't want it to be like, it can only be about the entertainment industry. It can only be about, astronomy. I wanted it to be as broad as like whatever my interests were. Like, I like yoga. I like hiking. I like music, all kinds of music. I like all kinds of TV, all kinds of movies. I like all kinds of comedy. So like I was like, anything I can pull multiple like guests from just different areas. And I figured I had enough people in my life that knew enough interesting people that if the thing took off, I could get guests pretty easily. And then I was like, maybe we'll call it Celebrate. Like everything is like because I want to do something positive. I want to do something upbeat that was like specifically designed to shine light on something that's other people might not either know about or know too much about or be curious about or whatever. And I was like, well, it could be Celebrate. And then everything could be a celebration of, and I was like in a birthday party, like all this shit. And I think it was Nicole, my wife, who said, I was like, what's another way to be like, hey, we're fucking talking this shit up, because I think that would have been a good title, like talking this shit up. But I also think I just feel like we didn't want to do anything that was too like explicit in the title. But she said, she was Googling shit. She's like, what about Speaking Highly? And I was like, ooh. And it did, at first there was like a double, like I do enjoy smoking weed, but also, but that wasn't going to be, but I also didn't want that to be the podcast. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And then John gets baked and asks dumb questions. Like, I don't want that to be, I wanted it to be an intelligent.
That's a good title.
Yeah, John gets bad for like, you know what? That's like a Patreon thing. That was like, that's right. Indy. We should, that's like,
yeah, for sure.
John gets 100%. Baked and answers fucking emails or whatever. And then it's like, how does this computer work? And then it's me plugging things in for a half hour. But yeah, I mean, that was when I heard, when she said speaking highly, I was like, I really like that. And when I said it to him, he was like, ooh, that's good. Yeah. And then kind of that made me think I was on to something, because he has we're not like, me and Indy aren't so tight that he wouldn't tell me if an idea was dumb. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's not like just a yes man. If I'm like, hey, I want to do this and that, he goes, well, here's why. He always says that. He always puts it like this. He goes, I mean, you can do what you want to do, but and I always know like the next thing that's coming is like, but you're a dumb old man and you don't know anything about the internet. So let me explain things to you. And he does it in a way that I'm like, okay. And then I just go with it, because he ends up selling his point and making sense. It's not like he's pulling these ideas out of thin air. He's got multiple podcasts that he produces. He's building a studio. He's doing the things that are eventually going to lead to him kind of running a podcast network. You know what I mean? So right. I kind of put that in his hands and just kind of go with what he says, because I don't fucking know.
Well, let's talk about the man who does know. Indy. So where are you from?
I grew up
Corpus
in San
Christi?
Diego.
Oh, okay.
No.
San Diego.
Yeah, I guess my grandfather, I never met him. He died in like the 60s, I guess. But he moved out from Texas to California. And I guess he grew his family there. And my dad grew up in San Diego. And yeah, I just grew up in San Diego. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a semi-truck driver, pretty blue collar neighborhood. Went to college in Orange County, the cheapest college I could find.
The farthest away and the cheapest.
Yeah.
Because you still had to kind of drive away like an hour or so.
Yeah. And
I thought you were just going to end it right there. I grew up in San Diego. That was it. No,
so a few words.
Truck driver. Now, did you go on any long hauls with him? I've done that before. That's some weird shit.
No, he quit when I was born and started again when I was like in my teens. Mm-hmm. But he like let me in the truck once when he was like nearby the house one day. But mm-hmm. like he and my mom did that. My dad was a cross country truck driver since like the 80s. And mm-hmm. then when my mom got pregnant with me and my brother, he kind of came off the road and was kind of like a local truck driver. Mm-hmm. And then ended up managing the distribution center near my house, and then got laid off, and then had to be a truck driver again. And then, yeah, that's the
now. Did you have like a family sing along of Alabama's 18-wheeler? Do you know that one?
No, I don't know that.
You got to listen to it.
I need to know that.
Oh yes, Google it. You've got to.
You got to. I mean, this kid, it's going to take you back. It's going to warm your heart. I promise.
Indy was born in 1993.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's okay. Do you know that song, John?
No, I was not born in the 40s.
Neither of you know.
So like, you guys know it's a vaudeville tune. Come on, man. You don't know it? It's like juggling. The guy juggled and had a dummy. Remember? That's literally how I feel though. Whenever I say something to Indy, I'm like, "Hey, man." So then, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't know what that is." Like, "Oh yeah, because it happened in 1990." Yeah, never mind.
Man, 1993. That's the year you were born. Did I lose it, everybody?
I don't know. Did he answer?
Yeah, I said yeah, May. Yeah, May. Yeah.
Wow. Well, okay. Let's perspective this. Let's all do a round here of where you were in 1993. Rachel.
93. I just moved to San Francisco.
Ooh, nice.
Doing what? What were you doing there?
Doing I was dropping out of school and doing drugs. I think. I don't know. There's a block of time there. That's pretty.
And you look like
1993 San Francisco. So
and you look like Gwen Stefani, right?
No, not at that point. I was still doing like the dark. I was doing the black hair and in 93. Yeah, no. I was trying to look like Death from Sandman. You know the comic book Sandman. I did the like.
I figured you were rockabilly. No.
I was a gothabilly before that was a thing.
Gothabilly, yes.
My father was a rockabilly musician, actually, so he got me to the Cramps and all those like earlier when I was way too young to be that cool.
That's awesome, though.
San Francisco in '93, doing what I was doing instead of going to school.
Fair enough.
John, where were you?
93. I was graduating high school and hitting the road following the Grateful Dead for a couple shows and putting off college for a year.
And I was going into my first year of high school and I was trying to be Frank Sinatra and I got into Guys and Dolls and became a homosexual.
Interesting.
But just that seems like the path where it should have gone, right? Just hearing that sequence of events, right?
Probably would have been easier for you. Yes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, for sure. So, Indy, where were you in 1993?
93.
Fetus.
Zion Hospital, San Diego.
All right. So
far, Indy, I've got your full name, your birthday, your mother's maiden name, and where you were born.
I just need a credit card number and a social security card number, and we will be fine.
Just need your father's middle name and.
Welcome to Mining Information with the Snyders.
So, Indy, so what did you do after you were born?
Oh, jeez.
Vague, not vagueness.
Start at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, were you always into, well, I guess we didn't have podcasts. Well, yeah, I guess, when did podcasts start? What year?
Oh, gosh.
Well, if you consult episode 1 of the Speaking Highly podcast, we get into some stats about the actual first podcast, which I believe was in the mid to late 90s, and it was done by Adam Curry, the guy from MTV.
Oh, from MTV.
Did you like how I segued there?
Andy, you can Google MTV later if you want.
Yeah. MTV is a channel that used to show music videos, which are a thing that used to be made. Yeah.
They're known for ridiculousness.
That's the only thing they run now, 24 hours a day. Yes. It's the ridiculousness.
It used to be really, really cool for like a minute.
Yeah. But see, then I wonder, like, was it, or were we just so insanely impressed by it that we were like, well, this is awesome? Or is it like,
it was pretty awesome?
Yeah, but I feel like it's like if I would have showed my dad MTV, I'd be like, oh my God, look at MTV. He would have been like, I don't get it. Whereas if like, my friend's kids show him YouTube videos that they like, my friend, he's like, I don't get it. It's like, yeah, because it's not for us, I feel like MTV wasn't for old people. It was like for us. And then it became a corporate thing. And then it went to shit immediately. Yeah.
Speaking of YouTube, have you watched Scary Flying Shark?
No.
Okay. That's the kind of thing where you're.
What made you think of that?
Well, I was just thinking about like things that somebody shows you and like now that you go, what the fuck is this, right?
Oh, there's some weird shit on YouTube for kids, like weird.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm trying to sell kids programming, because it doesn't have to make any sense.
Yeah, no, my son got obsessed with Scary Flying Shark, and it's a cartoon of like a shark that comes to kill you. I mean, that's what it's about. And there's a scary flying shark. Watch out, he will bite you in the dark. And it's like these kids, and you can't escape from him, and he's in your bedroom, and he goes down your chimney it's horrible. And he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and was would fly around the house like his scary flying shark.
What did he love it? Did he love, like, was he scared of it, or did he love it? Just
he loves scary stuff. Yeah, he's
okay
into that.
Yeah, he likes something called Siren Head.
Five Nights at Freddy, and when he was a baby, he used to hide in the pitch black dark. Like I'd be panicking because I couldn't find him, and he'd be in my walk-in closet in pitch black dark waiting for me to jump and scare me. Like he thinks that shit's hilarious.
Oh, what's his name? Damien?
Yeah, sometimes. But he has been called Satan once or twice by somebody.
Yeah, he's done some crazy shit. What is that thing he did where he was like I mean, he could barely speak, and like he like said he saw like something, and then he's like,
when my dad died and he was talking to the ceiling and going, okay, I come with you. I'm like, stop that.
That shit is cool to me. You watch there's a Netflix series called Surviving Death.
Mm-hmm.
And episode 1 is really interesting. It's about a couple people who definitely died and then came back. And then there's a couple of hokey episodes in there, but I think it's episode 4 or 5 where they talk about children and how, you know, before the conditioning sets in, before like, no, you don't talk to invisible people and you don't do that. There's thought that they can see more than like an adult who's been conditioned, you know, with the kind of the rules of society. And they talk about kids having past lives and like not never getting to really explore them or talk about them. And my friend watched this, and as a goof, went up to, he's going to eat dinner with his family, sat at the dinner table. He said to his oldest son, who was like probably, you know, 13 at the time, he's like, hey, Tanner, did you ever have any past lives? And the kid was like, yeah, I was a military general. I don't know why people don't ask me about it. Like, he didn't miss a beat, and it wasn't like a staged thing or an improv or a bit or a thing, because he said it, and then he was done with dinner, and then he walked away. And my buddy's like, I just sat there shitting my pants. Like, why? Like, I didn't think it was going to get that kind of reaction. And but I believe like kids, like the more, I don't want to say it like innocent or pure mind, but like just the not so polluted with the way things are supposed to be and what we're supposed to see before that sets in. I think kids can see the other side.
You know, my dad died when Nico was 2, almost 3, and we lived with him for the last year of his life. I took care of him, and so that kid, you know, he was in and out of the hospital. I mean, he watched him die essentially, but he was not even speaking, you know, at the time when he passed away. But yeah, he said some really weird stuff about my dad, and I'm pretty skeptical in general, but I saw him do some things, and he said since some really weird things about, oh, I saw your dad. He fell down. He didn't feel good. I tried to help him up, but he said he couldn't come with me. Like, just weird. And then the night that Brian's talking about, he came into my room all spaced out, which was weird for him. And he was just staring at the ceiling and he's going, okay, I go. And I was like, baby. And he was like kind of dreamily looked over to me. Like, he wasn't really awake. And I was like, yeah, I need you to stay here with mommy. Okay. And he goes, and he looked up and he shook his head and he looked at me and he put his hands on my head. He goes, okay, mom. And then he fell asleep and I was like, this is like a week after my father died. And we would always joke that, you know, I'd be like, take this baby. You know, he'd always say, that's my baby. I'm like, you can have him. You know, like we always had these jokes back and forth about that. And I was like, you can't have him.
Please don't take my baby. Yeah.
God, you can't stop that. And he would talk in the corner of my dad's room. He'd go up and go, and just talk.
Yeah. No, yeah. That's I'm convinced that that's all legitimate. I mean, it's all energy anyway. And once, you know, you kind of shed the human form and the energy goes back out into the universe, I think there's a tendency for it to hang around where it spent its time, you know. I don't know if that, I don't have any scientific evidence to prove that. I'm not.
Well, when he was about 4, he turned to me and he said, settle down, Rachel. And I was like, Dad, is that you? Like, I thought maybe you'd actually possessed him at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And that's why when you look around, there's only like 10 faces you can have. You know what I mean? When you look at like someone's face, you're like, yeah, you're a combination of like 8 people I know, because there's really only so many faces. There's only so much DNA out there coming out of the energy that is the universe. So there's only like, that's why you see like a dog that will look like your dad, or like you know, like a white version of your black friend, whatever, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey, that guy looks like that guy looks like Chad, but you know, Chad's white. That's okay. Like there's the same face, like, you know, it's all a mixture of DNA and
kids are
energy.
Can we get back to talking about Indy's long haul trucking career?
Yeah. Please God.
So Indy, were you
laser focused, Brian? I love it.
He has not seen Convoy. I can almost guarantee that.
That was a Brian question.
So, going back to, was there ever a time you thought you'd go into long haul trucking?
Oh, never. No, never. No. I've always been a film guy, TV guy. Like my mom would always listen to talk radio, so I think that's where I like podcasting from.
What shows?
She was an avid listener of KFI AM 640, Los Angeles talk radio. Mm-hmm. Even though we were in San Diego, it's a 50,000 watt station, so we got the signal. And,
did you ever listen to the Tom Leykis show?
Almost, but I was a huge fan of Phil Hendry, who was on KFI, and he did all the different voices and called in different as different people and would piss off the audience
because they didn't know, right? Yeah, people would be like, "I don't like this caller," and he'd be like, "Well, you got to talk to him." I did a show with Phil not that long ago, like probably about a year and a half ago. He's still on Twitter and doing voices, and I mean, he's still out there, man. He is such a funny dude.
Yeah, that's where really I think like the seed of all this podcasting stuff started, was just listening in the car with my mom when she'd take me to school or anywhere. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of turned into kind of like, I went to high school, I did all the multimedia classes. This is when like the IMAX were coming out with like iMovie, and so you could like,
is that just high school?
No, not the Bubble Max. The ones that were like maybe like 2 inches thick. Not now.
Okay.
Not like how they're now.
Yeah, dude, the Bubble Max were the things that we first got in production. Like when your desk had a Bubble Max. Yeah, exactly.
I had those in elementary school.
Yeah. You were like, we were using brand new iPads, but they were just kind of clunky.
They were the iPad version 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just took multimedia classes, and then I went to film school in college, and I quickly realized that like I didn't want to be a video editor. I didn't want to be a cinematographer. All of that took too long for my ADD. I didn't want to
wait a second.
I didn't want to spend 20 years being an assistant camera operator just to become a director of photography. You know, so like it was really sobering going to college and getting out. And then I kind of got into media at BuzzFeed. I got hired at BuzzFeed right out of college, and was like starting like completely opposite of film, which is like short form content, the quickest possible. Like it's not about quality, it's about quantity. You have to flood the market and just like put any idea out there, see what sticks, and then whatever gets viewership, you know, put your focus and money in that. And so I learned a whole lot, and they didn't do any podcasting, but I'm a really huge fan of comedy, which is why I gravitated towards John in general. I know he told the story of me trying to be very ambitious with his following. But it was literally just like, he was the only comic I knew in LA, just from working on My Death Co. And me and my girlfriend have a podcast called The Conscious Club Podcast. It's theconsciousclubpodcast.com. We haven't recorded in a while, but basically we did that show for a couple of years and nobody watched, because it's about a funk band named Wolfpack. So you could tell that all the eyeballs and ears were dying to listen to that.
It's a very specific. It's a very specific group of about 10 people that are.
It's they're trying to bring back Motown into the new age, so it's a very interesting niche.
It's good. I mean, it's good music, man. I mean, those guys are fantastic musicians. Like, if you're just going to break down the skill level, and this is just me being at Indy's house and him going, "You got to watch these videos, man." Like, and then showing me like 5 or 6, but they are, I mean, they're fantastic musicians.
Yeah, they're definitely like. What's interesting about them, and obviously you guys can watch a podcast to figure it out, but
I was gonna say I'm gonna be your 11th watcher, because that sounds
but essentially me and my girlfriend really love Wolfpack. Like, they're like basically our favorite band, and like they're basically like the band leader has a very entrepreneurial shtick to him. His character in the band is like, I'm this band leader who's like egoless, but also like super entrepreneurial and super shticky. So he likes to brand everything and make everything super special. Like, his merch drops only have 100 pieces of merch because it's super special, and you can only get it at the concert. So you have to buy so it's like very like entrepreneurial. And so like I'm kind of naturally like that. So like I really just gravitated towards him and the band leader. And that kind of, and he gives like a TED talk in his concerts. And his TED talks are like, be your biggest potential, try to get, invest in stocks. It's like, try to literally be your best, kind of like Tony Robbins, almost like a shticky Tony Robbins. And it's literally like, just do stuff you love and try to make money with it, you know, like just try and be smart. And so like, that's what I was like, I love comedy. I watch comedy podcasts all day, every day. Everything that I watch is comedy podcasts. Like I don't watch TV. I don't watch Netflix. I don't watch movies anymore. It's literally just podcasts every day, all day. And my girlfriend kind of is a little bit annoyed with that.
I would burn your house down if I had to live there and watch podcasts all day. Fucking God, that would suck.
But it's literally like it stems from driving around with mom, listening to radio. Like it's a very familiar thing for me, and it combines the film aspect, and also like I'm also a musician as well. So like the audio engineering, I've always been interested in recording audio and recording bands and all that stuff. So like podcasting is literally like the mixture of both film and audio engineering, I guess, at least nowadays, in terms of like what you can do with podcasts now is basically like anybody you like, any person you're a fan of can make their own show, and you could be a fan of it and you can monetize it. Right. So like, I was just going like, I really love doing this. I'm not going to stop watching podcasts. So I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. And even though I have a day job, but like I luckily get to work remotely in the pandemic. So I have all this extra time to do stuff that I was like, hey, I asked my girlfriend, do you want to start a company and produce podcasts? And she was like, what are podcasts? Right. And so I've dragged her into this thing, and now we have a company, and now we have bottom lines, and it's interesting, and we're in a little bit over our head, but we're trying to make it work.
Cool. Now, yeah. I have some questions, John. I want you to think on this one. Did you see the new Bob Ross documentary? Hold on the answer.
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. I'm looking forward to that one. But I was just curious if you saw it. And Indy, I want to know if you know a guy named Alan Loaiza.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, never mind that question. Then tell me 2 questions. Do you actually have ADHD, or are you just saying you have ADHD?
I don't have it diagnosed, no, but I have like 3 browsers with like 17 tabs on all day, every day. And I'm texting over here, I'm Slacking over here, I'm emailing over there, I'm editing a video over in this other computer. And then I'm also watching a podcast in the corner of the room. So it's.
And I'm just watching one baseball game with my mouth open.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been a multimedia type of person. Like I started learning piano, then I was like, let me try guitar. I learned guitar. Let me try bass. I tried bass. Let me play drums. Let me try filming. I like filming. I like films. Got a camera. Tried to make videos. Went to college for it. Realized I didn't want to do it. It's just the
pile of abandoned interests.
Yeah, like I've always wanted to have multiple. I didn't want to be like stuck to one thing, because it's just I'm naturally like that. Like I want to go play bass right now. I want to go edit this video right now. Like I want to have like options for me, and then like occupy
sounds exhausting.
I don't know. It just seems does, like it is, but it's free. It's free, but it's like I don't know.
And you're young. You have a lot of energy, dude. But also like the things you're talking about, like, sort of set you up to be really proficient at podcasting, and the idea behind it, and the knowledge of when it's a good idea to put out an episode, and when, how long things should be, and how you monetize,
Yeah,
I mean, BuzzFeed probably helped with that too. You're right out of college. It's like you said, short form content. How do you keep people interested for, a short, get them hooked. And that's, I think your knowledge in those areas is what is going to help you. And because it's an ever-changing, always updating medium, and you're constantly updating your own thing.
Yeah, and yeah, no, I totally because I remember BuzzFeed's the complete opposite of podcasting, short form content. So they tried podcasting, and their podcast department disbanded within a year because no, like BuzzFeed kind of tells you what to think in certain ways, because they're very liberal and they're very like, if you don't think this way, like here's a video on how you should think. So like you don't want to listen to an hour-long podcast on how you should think.
Right.
So like it's not authentic. So like that's why I was like, oh, so people are going to listening to podcasts for authenticity, and also like maybe an escape from the BuzzFeeds of the world, an escape from social media and being pulled in, and like there's everything's so short form content now that like people are just dying to just understand somebody instead of just what they show on Instagram, which is most of the time BS anyway.
Yeah.
People with ADHD are kind of dialed for that kind of work too. I mean, just for that social media and the content, I mean, pumping out, or the authentic stuff as well, able to see the gems within, these average things that, 20 years ago, no one would care about, but people want to hear people's stories now. They want to hear personal, boring, everyday stuff, because we're so removed from that because of all the, the fast content pumping out that BuzzFeed and those other, types of places have done. It's just like a bombardment of excitement when people just want to know, like, well, God, what is that person, what's their daily routine, or what do they like to watch on TV? Like, just slow it down a little bit.
Or just bring a personal thing into it. Like, I know, like, I podcast with some BuzzFeeders now, and they're put in a corner. Like, they get told what videos they get to do, and they, if you're it sucks if you're like a large person, like a physically big person, you're technically a body positivity influencer to Buzz. So like you have to like play into that, and like
you have to fit into one of their labels.
Yeah. So it's just another version of what the studios are doing, or what the studios have been doing, so it's like podcasting is the antithesis to all of that. It's like, let's get down, like, let's just talk about what's really is happening. And like, I think that's what people are dying to hear. Yeah.
Now, Rachel, do you think he has ADHD as a person with ADHD?
I don't know, Brian. I mean, all the things he's describing is very, ADHD-ish, esque, for sure. Especially the like picking stuff up and wanting to learn how to do everything and then moving on quickly. That's a trait.
Do you think that kind of behavior stems from like just kind of the area, the time he was born, and like the way the technology sort of hit his generation is like, because this was brought to my attention that Sesame Street and like the Electric Company sort of set us up for shorter form content, in the sense that like Sesame Street is a half-hour long show, but it's not like it's not a 22-minute sitcom about Sesame Street. It's like, here's a thing about numbers. Here's a thing about, singing. Here's a thing about colors. Here's a thing about shapes. And it's like kind of like in a row. And they don't necessarily all tie together. It's like brought to you by the number 12 and then, the color blue. It's like, okay, whatever. And it's really
they're teaching us how to be a YouTuber from the start. Yeah.
I mean, not that they were teaching it, but it's like, I feel like it's led to like, okay, children's programming can be shorter. It can be, and then it's like Indy's generation is born, and they're like kind of the first generation to get that sort of treatment with the internet and everything. I mean,
and I remember access to internet porn.
I mean,
Yeah, dude, because when we first got the internet, I couldn't get porn on there. I was like, I could barely send an email. I was like, this takes 5 days. Like, okay.
And that dial-up sound.
Woof.
I think that they're conditioned a little more for it. Yeah. But I don't think it's necessarily, I mean, like, when he's talking about, being interested in this kind, like as soon as that stuff started taking off, I glommed onto it. I loved it because it was going as fast as I go. Right. So I was like, oh, finally something that's moving as fast as I am. And I loved learning about social media marketing and about algorithms and about, and how do you appeal to this broad audience with this small, and just all that stuff. And then the content pump out, I did that for years with Atlas Obscura, and it was exhausting. I did 6 articles a day, every day for years. Just content until it was burned me out. But I was able to pace myself later to, more of the 3 things a day down to now we're at 1 thing a week, which works for me. Or with the TikTok, it's like a thing a day maybe, but I was kind of wired for it too. And I'm the same age you are. And I was bored until then, until Facebook took off and suddenly you had access to all this stuff and you could, I mean, you could access so much, you could share so much, you could make videos, you could make audio recordings, you could, I was just always looking for something to, you know, to move on to the next thing. And so then the internet became that thing entirely. And and then I started making fun of my blind husband on TikTok, and here we are.
Well, someone's got to make fun of him.
Yeah.
Somebody has.
He's not good at making fun of himself.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. You're great at it, dude.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, he's been great. His ideas a couple of times have been like, okay, you need to dial that back. That's inappropriate. Like, I'm not doing.
Well, I saw the one where you
me in a minute. Like,
well, the video where you left him, you wanted a ride and you drove away, and like I then the post after, you're like, now people are mad at me because me and my husband put out a jokey video. It's like people getting upset, like, you can't leave a blind man in the woods.
Like, and you should have heard what he wanted me to do with that. What we were, he was like, oh, you know what we should do is you should say that you're going to, like, you have to leave me there because you have a date tonight with like the football team, or like it's something that alluding to.
It was a gangbang reference for
I'm
sure.
Like, we're not doing that. And then I'm going to say, I love you. And you just say, fuck you. I'm like, no, we're not. My character has to be a little bit, you know,
you have to be sort of likable. Yeah.
I can't be a total asshole. Like I can be like just inconsiderate, but you can't make me like abusive. These are real names, you know?
You have him on a dog collar, you tie him to the bumper. We're like, this is a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and he's a handsome guy. I'm going to have some girl wanting to wear my skin, like hanging outside in the driveway any minute if it gets too ridiculous. But
there's been a few comments about that.
About skin wearing?
Well,
about how yeah, there's tons of like, oh, he's so dreamy. Why is she so mean to him? I say, you know,
who are these? Other people with no vision. I like it. He's so dreamy. He's so dreamy. He's got the voice. His voice is silky. He must be 8 feet tall.
One night of him playing Phil Collins, there a date night, and you'll understand why you're blocking the date.
What's wrong with Against All Odds?
Dude, I love that song.
What's wrong is that you play it when I'm in the middle of a sentence that reminds you of it. So I'll be like, well, anyway, but like, hold on. Siri, please play Phil Collins.
And you coming back to me.
And then if I interrupt the song, he's like, I'm sorry, Siri, please stop.
Song. Yeah.
What were you saying? I'm like, nothing, I guess. By all means, go back.
So, and the other thing is, what was the thing? I wanted to do a comedy bit about every time you're humming something, I start actually playing the song.
Every single time. I liked it. My dad was a singer. I'm a singer. I like this. Every time he walks in the room and I'm singing, he goes immediately to his phone and turns on a different song. Like, it's not even like, oh, she's singing that Sinead O'Connor song, I'll play that for her. He goes and turns on something totally different and interrupts me. Like, oh, no. Is
that on purpose? Is that?
Yeah, I don't know what he's trying to say.
No. I just think I'm just trying to fill the void a little bit.
What void? What void is being left
in between
in a room by myself,
your singing?
Usually.
In between your singing, I'm trying to. We need to fill every silent space. We need to fill with noise.
Right?
Could it be filled with the same song, maybe, or even it's the same genre? It's like what I'm singing reminds you of something completely non sequitur, and so it has to be listened to right this second.
Yeah, it reminds me of Creed with Arms Wide Open.
Oh my God.
My fly is wide open. The Hobbit's by Tolkien.
That's why I leave you in the woods. This is exactly why.
Yeah. So let's get back to Speaking Highly with John Huck. So let's talk about some of the guests you've had, which are awesome. You've had the Jamie Kennedy. You've had Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live. I mean, it's been awesome.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate, and I think that the show, like with Garrett would have done it because Garrett is a super lovely man who's been very, very nice to me and who claims to enjoy my comedy, and we have a nice rapport. We get along. I
enjoyed you creating jail stories. That was intriguing to me.
Well, I mean, what do you mean creating jail stories?
No, you're exchanging jail stories.
Oh yeah. Because I mean, that dude's been in and out, and he's been shot, and he's just had a very interesting life, you know. But he's just one of those guys who I knew that when I called him, he would do it. Mm-hmm. And we set it up, and he didn't even know what the show was. He was like, "What's the show?" When I said the name, he was like, "Oh, Getting High." I'm like, "Well, no." And then he just lights up a joint, and I'm like, "Oh, we'll do whatever you want, but that's not what the show is." But also, like with Jamie, like I was a production assistant on the Jamie Kennedy Experiment, so I've stayed in touch with him. We see each other at shows now, and it's just kind of an interesting thing. Like I was a PA on Malibu's Most Wanted, which was one of his first movies where he was the star. You know what I mean? So it was. We have a bond over those sort of things. And then I would say, like, and those guests are great. And the comedians that get on are usually like, we had Ted Alexandro, who basically like put out something on Twitter that was like, "Hey, if the first 5 people that respond to this, I'll do your podcast to talk about my new album." So I jumped on that, and he was like, "Yeah, no problem." And he was super great. And it was awesome having a solid comic like that who I have a lot of respect for. That was great. But some of my favorite guests have been people who I don't necessarily know, and are like, we had one woman on from a company called Give Back Homes, which she was brought to my attention, or her info was passed on from a friend. And I hit her up and I was like, "Hey, this is my podcast. This is what we do." I kind of have a little paragraph, a blurb, like, because when I'm reaching out to guests, it's like the podcast, the best way to explain it is it celebrates anything and everyone who makes the world a more interesting, entertaining, and better place to live, So when people hear that in the description and I'm reaching out to them to be on the show, that's me saying, you're one of those people. You're involved in a thing that I want to shine light on to say, this is awesome. And most people are like, "Yeah, okay, great." No one's like, "I don't really like having things that I'm involved with be called awesome." You know what I mean? I don't get a lot of that. It's more like, "Oh yeah, man, sure, I'll do that. That sounds." And then when I have an episode, I can go, "Look, Garrett Morris was on the show." They're like, "Oh, okay, well, there's a little reputability there, if that's a word." And then we had Paige Diaz, who I've met once or twice through comedy, but like her and her sisters own a dance studio in Venice. Like I like people who are doing things like that. I want to talk to those people. I want to hear their stories. I want to hear how that worked. And I think because I'm interested, that it comes across as being interesting to other people, if that makes sense. I've never had a guest on where I was like, "How the fuck am I going to talk to this idiot for an hour?" You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's always been like, we got to try to like narrow it down to what we're going to talk about, because I could talk to these people forever,
Yeah.
And again, I've been very fortunate with the people, the connections I've made throughout living in Los Angeles, doing stand-up, acting, whatever, and production work. And then those people I know within the industry also having branched out and made connections and met people and been involved in worthwhile projects. So if someone likes the show, they're like, "Hey, who would be good on your show?" And for the most part, it's always true. They're great on the show. And Indy's come up with a couple people, like, because Indy like watches comedy, like he follows it. He knows what everyone's doing. Dude, I barely know when my own sets are. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I don't pay attention to what and it's not, I don't say that to be like, "Yeah, comedy's stupid." I don't feel like I benefit from getting like really focusing on other people's stuff, because I feel like then there's a tendency for that to leak into what I'm doing.
Right.
I don't want that. You know what I mean? I don't want to, I want everyone to have their own voice, and I'm not trying to take anyone's or like absorb anyone's personality. And it's just working with a comic for a weekend. Sometimes you could pick up their cadence. You can, it's very, and maybe that's just me, and I'm spongy and kind of clingy that way, but like I find it to be something. And also my wife doesn't necessarily want to watch stand-up, so when we're like watching TV together, it's going to be something we want to watch. But every once in a while I will watch a special, or somebody, because there are comics who I absolutely I love everything they do, and I want them to be, I want to see them succeed, and I want every special they do to do well. And so I do watch those, and I pay attention and to those careers. But other than that, like Indy has been like, "Hey, so-and-so put out a thing." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then it turns out like it's a thing that I like. I watch, I know that guy, reach out to him, boom. "Hey, do you want to do the podcast?" Of course, I want to talk about, because it's always like, "You want to talk about your thing?" Yeah, I always want to talk about my thing. So my thing is talking to people about their thing, and then everyone's happy,
Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, and you mentioned that you didn't want to be tied down to a particular genre, and I like that. I enjoyed the camping one. That was a lot of fun.
Well, because also one, I love camping is so fun, but Brooks is such a good guy. He's such a fun, interesting dude to talk to. Like, again, it's like subject matter plus interesting guest, and it makes it so I have to do less work in terms of like moving an interview along or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then having Indy there is kind of like, it's almost like an audience of one kind of deal, which I don't know if you remember Alan Havey's late night talk show.
That's before my time.
Oh yeah, bullshit.
Your time is like 1945.
Yeah, I didn't say Steve Allen. I said Alan Havey. You see Jack Benny's? Alan Havey is an amazing comedian, a hilarious human being, but he had a late night talk show kind of deal where he always had an audience of one, and it was like one guest or a contest winner, always just one dude or one woman sitting there, and he would come out and do the monologue, and they would be like, yay, and it was literally, you'd only hear their clapping, they're laughing. It was really funny, but that's, I don't know why I brought that up, because having Indy there is like having, it's something to bounce off. He doesn't like laugh through the whole thing or anything, but like, I don't know, knowing he's there, I think it helps. I really do. I think it's part of it's. If he wasn't there, it would be a different show,
Yeah.
Also, would never get edited or posted.
I honestly wish I could laugh through the Zoom calls if it wasn't so distracting. But like, I always love like on a comedy podcast where you can hear the producers just giggling in the background on some jokes, because it lets you know that you're doing the right thing.
It's like Talk Soup.
Yeah,
it's like how you hear hear the crew laughing, and it was like, man, I like that, because then you, like you said, if you're in front of the camera, it's like, okay, well, I'm doing something right, because even if all this shit's falling flat, there are people in the room that are laughing at that it's falling flat, so it's still funny, and that helps.
Right. So, who are some of your favorite comedians, Indy?
Oh gosh,
God, this list is going to be like 400 pages long, by the way.
Recently, I've been watching Shane Gillis, Chris DiStefano. I love Bobby Lee. He's always fun. Andrew Santino. Felipe Esparza, I love. Just basically all comedians. And like, I just dig the authenticity. Kind of the same thing with podcasting, because like I feel like comedians are like on the sidelines in terms of like, they're not like, obviously everybody's got like they're on the spectrum politically one way or another, but like I think it's more objective. Like comedians are like watching the game happening and commenting on it happening and commenting the bullshit that's going on, rather than being in it and being like, screw the other side, I like my side. Like I know there's comedy like that, but like it just feels like there's like an objective thing going on with comedy that like I gravitate to, because it's just authentic. It's like, isn't this bullshit? And everybody's like, yeah, it's bullshit. Like, so yeah.
Now, have you ever thought of doing stand-up?
Here we go.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I've thought of it. Yeah, I'm just petrified.
You know what, Andy, what would be good actually is to watch Brian do it, because that's that'll either make you go, oh yeah, I can do this, or go, fuck this.
Well, to be fair, the first time I did it, I was
weren't you supposed to send me that, John?
I was
the one from go ahead, Brian, sorry.
No, completely arrogant the first time. Like I've been coming off a performance high. I just performed in 12th Night, and I was doing a little experimental theater stuff, and I was like, I can do this. And Matt Dittman, our mutual friend, was running a room at the Derby, and
such a fun room. That room, the people that came through that room too, that was such a fun room. But yeah, I remember you thinking like, oh yeah, comedy's easy, and me going, who's this fucking nerd?
And this is where Al Madrigal was working out stuff, Kyle Kinnain, Matt Broner, Gabriel
John
Iglesias.
Reap, Gabriel Iglesias, Felipe Esparza, I mean, Sam Tripoli, everybody, just about everybody came through that room at one point or another. I remember Tracy Morgan walking by. He didn't come in. Right. I remember him walking by.
Right. Yeah. And so, well, thank you for answering that. But let's go back to what were some of your favorite moments in that? Like, it was interesting because I interviewed Brian Irwin around the same time. I wasn't thinking about Father's Day at all, but then it tied in really well. And then you had the Father's Day episode, and that was a great episode. It was nice to see the contrast of different information that that you received from him.
Well, yeah, I didn't know you were going to have him on the same week. Right. That was a little weird. I was like, wait, what?
I didn't know either.
Yeah. So I thought about that, but also I did want to have him on as a guest. We did 198 episodes of Hollywood Anonymous or whatever. Like we have a rapport. We can communicate with microphones in our hand and it comes across as conversational. You know what I mean? I wasn't worried about that part of it, but I wanted to have him on as a guest and talk about, sort of focus on him a little bit. You know what I mean? And kind of, I mean, look, the reason, and not the reason, but one of the main things we're not doing Hollywood Anonymous anymore is he has a family and they're busy. These kids are in high school. They're fucking athletes. I mean, we were doing podcasts from Dodger Stadium in the bleachers at Dodger Stadium because his kids had baseball camp there, so but it was awesome because then I get to go into Dodger Stadium when it's like me, him, Mark Pryor, the pitching coach, and then like 40 kids running around doing whatever. And we're just like, oh man, we're in Dodger Stadium. It's just fun, man. But, so yeah, him being a father, it's like, who better to talk about Father's Day, than a dad. And not like old man dad, but also we had his dad on our podcast too. So there was a lot of tie-in for that. That was great. When his dad was done, he just put the mic down and walked away. We were like, wait, what? And he just like walked out of the room. And Brian's like, I think the podcast is over. I'm like, hey, okay. Like, it was really funny. It was really funny. But yeah.
When you're done, you're done,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like I said, man, every guest has something that is a little bit unique or interesting. And it's been really fun to talk to these people,
Yeah, and it's just been, I love the variety of stories, and I mean they all have humor, and I mean it's very clear what your through line is, about the idea of how people make the world a more loving place and entertaining as well, and it's amazing.
I also want to show like kind of the thing that I always sort of point at is Mark Maron's podcast, the What the Fuck podcast, or WTF, or it's not called What the Fuck. I don't know. Whatever.
WTF. WTF. Yeah.
Yeah. That podcast, when I first started hearing it and listening to it, I was intrigued because the way it was put to me, it was Maron was in his garage looking for a place to sort of hang himself because he had sort of burned every bridge and fucking, set his world on fire. And then he was like, oh, I could probably do a podcast out of here. You know what I mean? And that podcast literally turned his life around,
Right.
And he brought people on who he was not necessarily tight with, people he had, because like I said, he burned a lot of bridges. So like one of the first things he would ask people was like, all right, what did I do to you? Like, are we cool? how did I piss you off? But more importantly, from those podcasts, I heard people that I didn't necessarily like listen to on a regular basis, like comics or actors, but I would hear their stories and always think like, oh, they're just like me. Like you think things are going to go one way and then they don't, and then you have to kind of regroup and head the other way or figure it out. It's like nobody's life is like, and then I do this and then I do that and do this and then with that and then I'm successful and then I got money. It's like everything is all over the fucking place. Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. But like, I remember like just like hearing like people like Sandra Bernhard who were like supposed to be these massive fucking, and then like they got kind of not derailed, but like they went and did this, something else happened. And then this fucking opportunity didn't present itself in time. And they ended up over here doing something else, but then also they ended up happy doing what they like doing. They found that this was a thing over here that they like doing, or they found, you know, they could combine things and do what they, it was just the idea that nobody's life takes a fucking straight line, and everyone's got an interesting story, and there's ways for all of us to be happy if we can figure it out, you know. And I think that's what I wanted to sort of do. If I was like taking from another podcast, it would be that podcast, in the sense that I wanted to shine light on other people's cool shit, you know.
Right. Speaking of Mark Maron, have you listened to the Norm Macdonald one from 2011?
I have not. No.
It's haunting.
That would make me very sad.
Yeah, it was really haunting, some of the things he said. And the other interesting thing about it is he talks about how how he started to think comedically was when his father made him take a blind man to the store and describe everything.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, it's really, and he brings it up a couple times in that interview. I highly recommend listening to it, just because it's some of the things he said in it are intense.
I feel like it's such a, like, I love Norm Macdonald, and then I had like a very bad experience on Last Comic Standing, and I was like mad at him.
Right, yeah.
He doesn't know this. Mm. No one else knows this. I didn't walk around yelling, I want to fight Norm Macdonald. But right. I was like, man, I did not like him saying this shit that he said. And I was like mad because I loved him so much, you know?
Right.
But then like I got over that like a year after, and I was like, who fucking cares about that show? They paid him to be a dick. He did his job. It does not fucking matter. But at the same time, I feel like when he passed away, I was like, I never got a chance to like tell him I wasn't mad at him, but like, he never knew I was mad at him. He was like,
right.
It was just one of those things. It was like all very like personal to me, but only me, you know what I mean? But that the idea that he didn't really let people know he was sick, and like, I don't know. I respected a lot of how that guy did it.
Yeah.
That's, you know, or from what I could see, because like I never worked directly with him. I just got, you know, stories about him from other comics that worked with him, and like people talking about him playing football in the hallway of Saturday Night Live. And
right.
I don't know.
Yeah. He seemed like a genuinely lovely person. And, you know, even said like, I don't know if this is true or not, but Mark Maron asked him, did you ever see yourself as becoming successful? And he said, no, he never thought about that. He said it wasn't.
I read a quote. Yeah, I read a quote that was like, because a lot of people want to talk about how he lost all his money a couple different times gambling.
Right.
Like he lost everything, you know, and then he kind of worked it back or got what he got or whatever. But the quote was something like, he was like, I just like cracking up with my friends, and I don't need a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
So I think it was like, yeah, he could be. It's like people say Larry Bird would have been happy playing basketball with no cameras and nobody in the stands. He just liked playing basketball. I think Norm Macdonald just liked cracking up and having a good time, and, you know, talking shit and being funny. And I don't think, as long as he had like a friend there to talk to him, I don't think he necessarily had to have an audience or had to be the most famous person in the room, or, you know, he just enjoyed it. And I think that kind of showed with who he was. I mean, when I've some of the funniest reactions I've ever gotten when I've been like doing improv on stage have been when I do the Norm Macdonald thing of, I'm a character, but I'm just going to be me. Like, right. I remember someone was like, you're going to be Sasquatch. And in my head, I go, I want to Norm Macdonald the shit out of this. And I went out there and I was like, they were like, oh my God. And I go, how you doing? I'm Sasquatch. And everybody fucking started laughing. Like they were expecting a monster. They were expecting whatever. Right. But Norm Macdonald's like, you know, oh yeah, I'm Sasquatch. Yeah, Sasquatch. And that kind of thing. I was like, I'm just like, I like that. It's like looking like you're not trying, but you're very much trying to look like you're not. I don't know. I'm not explaining it maybe right, but
he was very unique.
He was unique, and the kind of little things that I can take from him, I will, because they're worthwhile. And I think he was such a fucking funny dude, and my favorite news anchor on SNL too.
Yeah,
totally.
You know,
Yeah, he talks about that in an interview. It's interesting.
That's how people know him the most, I think, because he's very famous for that and all the OJ jokes. I mean, and again, the punchlines sometimes wouldn't be punchlines. They'd just be like, and OJ, I did it. And then he would just, and it was just like, what? It's like, he goes, his book, If I Did It, sorry, it should be, I did it. Like he would just say,
right.
Well, I was busy stabbing people. In OJ's defense, he was busy stabbing 2 people. Like it was just like, he was just relentless. It was just very funny. It was very funny.
Yeah. Also, and it's sad, the bowel cancer joke, where he's doing the bit about Alcoholics Anonymous and the Uncle Bert and bowel cancer. That's kind of it's hard to listen to a little bit. Yeah, because if you listen to that and the Mark Maron thing, it's all tied in. It's really it's haunting. But Indy, you were going to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just saying about Norm, like just his ability to be so subversive with his comedy. Like I remember like recently in recent news when he was kind of canceled recently and went on The View, he was apologizing while popping mints in his mouth. Like it was literally the funniest thing. Like nobody was laughing, nobody understood it, but if you like deciphered what he was doing, he was saying something like, how could I have done such a horrific thing? And he pops a mint in his mouth. And it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life, but nobody's laughing, nobody gets it. And like Joy Behar is like, yeah, you did.
What was he canceled for? What did I miss?
So he went on Stern and said you had to have Down syndrome to understand that this, like he said the word Down syndrome when he should have. He said the word Down syndrome basically, and it didn't play well. And I don't know the joke what he was saying, but he was apologizing and trying to explain what had happened, but he was just like, I can't believe that I did something so heinous, and he pops a mint in his mouth, and it's just the funniest thing.
Because in the back of his head, he's like, and in the back of his head, he's like, why am I here, and why does anyone give a fuck what I say? Like, shut up.
Yeah. Norm.
So, Indy, what was one of your favorite episodes of Speaking Highly with John Huck?
Jamie Kennedy was pretty big. Harlan Williams was honestly probably Harlan, my favorite one.
That was the hardest. We both laughed because Harlan is such a weirdo. He went and like got these 2 little dolls and like just the shit he was saying. I don't know. We both really fucking laughed hard on that one. That was a good one.
Yeah. And literally my favorite movie of all time is Rocket Man.
That's right. That's
1997. It was a Disney Channel movie or like a Disney B movie, and where he goes to space and he has like his partner is like a chimp, and it's like the most hilarious like space themed movie, and he like farts in his suit out in space, and he has to share the air chamber with his. It's just a hilarious movie, and figuring out like he actually got to like rewrite the entire script to like his liking, which was like super cool. You can like hear all about it in the podcast, and it's just super cool to like me. I was 3 years old when that movie came out, and like
fuck you,
just to have it like literally,
he's got so many years ahead of him. That's the wonderful. Do you realize how much? I mean, you really got to cherish the time you have.
Oh God,
I have a Target retirement fund for 2060, so I'm set.
Perfect, dude. No, but you're right. That Harlan one, and again, that made it more special because Rocket Man was such a big movie for him, and it was Harlan's first and real only like he was the star. He goes like, he was like, they were flying me around on jets, and I was going to premieres and doing press, and like. It was like cool to be treated like that, but he was just a really, and also like, he's one of those guys who like, I had a children's book. I wrote a children's book and I didn't know what to do. So I drove to a publisher's building and I went inside and I demanded to see the public. They read his book. They were like, who are you? He's like, I'm a weirdo from fucking 6 hours from here. And they were like, yeah, okay, we like your book. Let's make it. And like, just, he's just a guy who like, kind of like what Indy was saying, like he just like how Indy's like, I like to learn stuff, like to do stuff. That's kind of how Harlan is like, I'm gonna make a cartoon. I'm gonna be an animator. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna draw that. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make that. And now he's books and puppy dog pals. And I mean,
his like leaning towards being just absurd is just so funny. Like you have no idea what he's gonna say next, which is so like such a captivating thing for just anybody to have. Like I would want somebody to be at my beck and call at like what I was about to say next. It's like it's such a crazy skill.
Yeah, and his fans love it. They want it. Like I remember I saw him. I worked with him in Irvine or whatever, and this guy afterwards, he had like a Harlan shirt on or whatever, and he comes up to me and he's like, "I thought Harlan was going to call me chocolate chip, but he didn't. He called another guy chocolate chip." I'm like, "Yep, he did." But this guy just wanted, they wanted to be part of it because like he'll look in the audience. My favorite thing is when he looks in the audience, he looks right at me and goes, "Could you please look away? Your eyes are annoying." Like tells people their eyes are disgusting. You ever put your ass in a fish tank and fart bubbles? You will. Like he's just so random, and the people fucking love it. It's very funny.
And his character is like in Dumb and Dumber, he plays the cop who drinks the piss, right?
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, he's in he's got these small roles in these iconic movies, and his parts are, I mean, iconic. People walk up to him and yell Grandpa's cough syrup and fucking 6-minute abs from Something About Mary, and like these little things. And they're, I've seen it go the other way where the person is like, God, fuck it, I've done so much other shit. What are these morons talking about? Harlan does not do that. He's very generous with his fans. He's very appreciative. You know what I mean? He's a genuine dude. He really enjoys the idea that these people gave a shit enough to remember these lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's nice to see, but
yeah, I mean, it is. And, it's been, there's been a lot of cocks on the microphones. I want to put my wife's vagina on the mic.
Yeah.
It's like, where's this going?
So say something about speaking highly.
Well, I feel like
she's like, well, I've never seen an episode, so
I just said that I did it. I haven't seen a bunch of episodes, but I watched the Garrison with it. I was very intrigued with, like I said, the jail story trade-off, and he was picking on Indy, which I thought was funny until he found out his producer, and I was like, oh, hello, sir.
Yeah. Then he thought he could help him.
I like the pacing. I like the pacing that you guys have, and it's very easy to. I mean, I'm like, I have something going all the time, playing all the time. And I think I actually had a roommate move out because of the constant podcast noise. Because it goes on till 2 a.m. usually. And so it was very easy to actually listen to while doing something else instead of pretending to listen. Like there's two different, having background noise, and then there's actually enjoying it while you're multitasking. And so I found it really easy to listen to and very good for that, which is great for my brain because I can't do one thing at a time.
And the opening song is very sexy. It's very sexy.
Great. That's just looking on the YouTube music free library.
I'll have to revisit. I didn't notice.
But I do. But it is good. I think. I mean, it is
great.
Shit that he found from a free library. But I was like, oh man, that sounds good.
I'm glad it was like the only one I picked, and John was like, yeah, let's go with it. I was like, okay.
It worked. It worked. I think it's kind of like our our Seinfeld bass slap.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So where are you going? Like, I know you're setting up. You're gonna start doing some shit again. So what's going on?
We've been on an extended hiatus. I've been traveling a little bit more, and I picked up a couple of acting gigs and did some stuff. And Indy's started a couple other podcasts. Apparently, I'm not the only.
Does that it's like a polyamorous type of thing? Does it bother you?
I go find out where these other podcasts are, and I push them around, and I trash their equipment, and then I
stay away from my producer.
Yeah, you fucking stay away from Indy. He's with me, and then we fight. No, I think it's great. If he needs time to do all that stuff, he should take that time, because I know that as fun and as enjoyable as my podcast is, it's not making him any money right now. And not that he's saying I need to make money, but it's just like he has opportunities to bring another podcast to work with.
It's like a pimp. He's got a.
Well, but also he's trying to build something. Like he's creating this studio at where he lives. He's like, it's going to be a place for all of us to go and do our podcasts and like work on shit. And like, it's, he's
you're trying to do an empire, right? Like a podcast empire sort of thing.
Well, honestly, I'm just trying to put my efforts and it's so much work doing a podcast. Like you have to really, like, I've really learned to like say, like make sure I'm putting my effort into the most monetizable way, like monetizable thing. Cause like, you're just going to go crazy. Nobody's going to watch. You're going to be burnt out. And at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit. So why kill yourself over it? So like, I was trying to go, okay, we have John and it's a great show, but obviously, you know, it's not, you know, we're not quitting our jobs over it. Right. So,
well, I quit mine, dude. Fuck. God damn it.
But you know, it's sobering because every 1,000, you guys probably know, you know, every 1,000 interactions you get with your podcast is $25 potentially that you could sell. So every iteration of that 1,000 is tough. So what I was, me and my girlfriend both produce podcasts. So we kind of reach out to like people who we know who have like in the 20,000s, 40,000s, 50,000s of followings on Instagram and YouTube, and going like, hey, you guys don't have a show. Here's what we can do. We already produce great shows and they're great quality. And would you want to start something like that? And it's growing and it's making some money. So like I'm trying to pull our focus into stuff that can keep this train going and keep the other podcasts going, because like, yeah, we're not making any money with this podcast, but I love comedy. I love John. Like it's funny. And it's like, it's honestly just great content that I enjoy.
And it's got potential to grow.
Yeah, for sure. And like,
as you grow your thing, it will grow with that.
For sure.
I think.
Yeah. So it's just, it's tough because it's such, you don't know what's going to pop. You don't know what's going to make money. But this recent podcast channel that we launched, which is www.besties.tv. It takes you right to the YouTube channel, and we so far have 3,000 subs and turned on monetization, and we've only made $28. So it's
hey, $28 more than you ever made from speaking highly.
I was gonna say, you can take us out for dinner because our TikTok is about $3 so far.
so like it's tough because you have to strategize, you have to consider the time, the labor of love involved. Like this next season of Speaking Highly is going to be a little bit more condensed, just because of that nature, because we're taking on more shows, and naturally I just can't spend the same amount of time that I was on the first 25 episodes. So but it doesn't mean the show is going to stop. You know,
I think it's going to improve. I think it'll be a better show when we kind of come back and do it in seasons instead of just kind of every week for a year.
Yeah. It's interesting because like it's tough to know, like podcasts that make money and you can quit your job doing is a weekly thing. You have, you know, sponsorships, you have contracts, you have to put out episodes every week because of those.
I thought you just say put out.
You got to put out to a lot of people in the podcast industry. So much sex. Podcast game is all just a horny orgy.
I was kind of better to have a slow build anyway, because if you catch on or go like right away, then there's so much pressure, and you don't have your foundation built yet, and you don't have your voice, you know, dialed in yet, and so it's easy to blow that up if you just have this slow roll and you kind of, you know, build up to it. I think it has a lot more stamina that way.
It's all become very erotic right now.
No, Brian Sucker.
It's so hot in here. But yeah, I just think it's about the product, and if the product's good, it's just a matter of time before it's successful. And I'm not going to put, you know, my time and effort into stuff that I don't think is going to be successful. So, hey, Speaking Highly, let's go. You know. So,
what's different about this new launch?
The new podcast that we just launched.
Well, no, John's you said it's going to be condensed, and then what else is going to happen?
Well, yeah, we were just doing episodes every week before, and we're going to probably work it so that we record a bunch at one time or within a few days and make that like a season. So there'll be like 10 or 15 episodes in a season, or we'll do 20 episodes and we'll break that into 2 seasons at 10 apiece. And then we'll put them out, you know, either every other week or something like that. We don't necessarily have a release schedule yet, but
yeah, it's tough because like when it comes to numbers, it's like, you know, 52 weeks in a year, that's 52 episodes. What if we went to every other week? Now that's 25-ish episodes. So it's like we're going to where it's like, let's not kill ourselves. We don't have to do this week to week thing. We could just go, let's make 20 and put 10 out and then put 20 out. And if we want to do a bi-weekly thing, then we're constantly in people's feeds, or at least like we're in the people's feeds, and then we're still in people's we're still being able to be seen by people. It's not,
and we're not overkill.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like we're not trying to saturate, but we're trying to stay alive too.
Right.
So
yeah. Can you tell us, I mean, or is it a secret, who some of the upcoming guests are?
Well, I mean, it's not really a secret.
You tell me, John. I don't know.
Well, I want to. We did part 1 of an interview that I'm going to do a part 2 of, but for me, it was a huge get and I just reached out to this guy on fucking Facebook. I mean, the fact that this guy responded to me still blows my mind. This dude was the manager, the tour manager, the road manager for the Rolling Stones up until Altamont. And then in 1969, he moved over and became the tour manager, road manager for the Grateful Dead. And he was their manager from 1970 to 1974 during the highlight of like their like Working Man's Dead, American Beauty. Like the music that got put out is like iconic. Some of the best Grateful Dead that was ever made. This dude knew Janis Joplin. He knew Syd Barrett. He knew Pigpen. He knew fucking Keith Richards. He knew Charlie Watts. It's like, he's got stories for days, and we only got a half hour in with him. And now we have to get the rest of that, but that will be something that goes out in the new episode or the new season. And then I have another guy I wanted to talk to is Matt Knudsen, who's a comic friend of mine, and an actor and a writer and producer. He does it all, but he just went skydiving for the first time. And it was something he was terrified to do, and he did it. And I'm like, we need to talk about that, Right. So we're having that. Those are like the 2 right now that I can think of that I kind of have scheduled. And then,
are you still in touch with Kyle Kinnain and Matt Broner?
I mean, in the sense that I have their phone numbers, and we every once in a while communicate here and there, Kyle probably more so, but not for any other reason than we just ended up in the same couple of shows recently, and we're texting back and forth. But yeah, I mean, those guys would be awesome guests, and that, again, that's a possibility. And I know, like, I'm friends with Santino, and like, we'll have him on, and it'll be who we get kind of deal, but also who I want to talk to and what we want to talk about. And
you got to get Dittman on.
Absolutely, dude. That was always that was a no-brainer from the beginning. We were planning on talking about Crawfords, and now I'm sure that will be a much more intimate episode. You know what I mean? We'll go beyond just opening a business. We'll go I would like to go into what he's been through, because it's
right. And he's obviously, you probably know, he's writing music.
Yeah. I want to take my guitar over there, because I know that he's got that little like studio area that he plays in. And I went over there for a birthday party, and was like, yeah, I gotta get back over here soon. But I'm also trying to find a new electric guitar to buy. So We'll see. Yeah.
Great.
I got one you could buy off me.
What kind is it?
The 2016 American Stratocaster.
Oh.
Well,
for how much? Because I was looking at Strats.
Well, we'll talk offline.
You can work this out here. That's all right.
Yeah, you guys are like Craigslist.
Yeah. We're the
you broker the deals. Like,
we like to
Andy
keep
has a unicycle.
Andy
has a unicycle. Do you want to buy it for $35? Andy, John will trade you a wheelbarrow for a unicycle.
Are you in? Only though, we don't want no interactions.
Yeah, no eye contact in the making of this exchange.
Well, listen, that's a great idea, Rachel. We should retool this and become a
you guys get on it.
A barter show.
Yeah, I was hoping we could add a few new elements to the
yeah, I think that'll take us to the next level.
That and a bad advice column. I don't know, when is someone going to let me do a bad advice column? When?
Oh, you make your own bad advice column.
I'm too lazy. I have so many projects that are mine that are not that are not finished. But like that's another. I need someone to just like go here, do this thing for 5 minutes a day.
Here's a deadline. Here's some money.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I had a great time, and I really enjoyed meeting you, Indy. And I think I love the show. I listen to it. It's part of my breakfast ritual is to listen to it, and I really enjoy it. And it's right up there with all my other podcasts, and I'm really glad that you're doing it. And I love the theme, and I love your guest. It's wonderful, and I hope everybody that's listening and watching tune in to Speaking Highly with John Huck and Indy Fawcett. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
Pandora,
everywhere, baby.
Everywhere you can find a podcast, we are at. And then we would like to have you guys on as guests as well. Obviously, it'll be a little while because we're doing this right now, but
right,
but there's something about like, I mean, first of all, obviously, Brian, you have a unique situation. And then the fact that you found someone who is willing to put up with you is also a unique situation. So
willing to put up with my unique situation.
Well, beyond that, just you deep down, more so than your situation. But
right. Me as a human being.
You as a human
nothing
being,
having to do with my disabilities.
Right. Nothing at all.
It's called the exhausting Snyder for a reason.
Yes, right. Exactly. And you guys are making the best of it. You know what I mean? I think that's an important thing. If you guys were sad sacks, that would not be a fun podcast to do, so
we get sad sacky.
I mean, everybody gets sad sacky, but like, it'd be weird if you were like, hey, Indy, I'm Eeyore, and
I'm blind, and she just had cancer. Yeah,
that's
kind of how we met.
It's the Debbie Downer crew.
Yeah, our losses
when we first met about which one people feared more, going blind or getting cancer. Like we're like Googling. No, this article says people are way more scared of.
Yeah, everyone's more scared of what I have. No, yeah. I'm braver. No.
Yeah. People would rather die than have my problems, not you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This was so fun.
Yeah, this was great. I don't usually let Indy talk this much.
That's true. I usually just stop John where I think, and I bring up some arbitrary thing that he has no idea about. Then
something that young people do that I'm like, ew.
The dynamic is beautiful. And is there anything you'd like to share before we disconnect?
When is this coming out?
I probably it'll be uploaded on Saturday, October 16th, if all goes well. What else was I going to say? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say I'll be in Kansas City, Missouri at the Kansas City Improv with Dan Cummins, October 23rd, 4th, and 5th.
Awesome.
Yeah. But if you live in those areas, try and get tickets now because I think they might be selling out because he is super popular.
And he was on Speaking Highly as well.
He was the first guest. We did an episode called about podcasts, and he was my first guest because when I worked with him, I worked with him in Irvine years ago, like 2015, and he was like, literally, he said to me, I'm thinking about starting a podcast, and I was like, well, okay, man. So I'm in the middle of my second one, and I sat down and I gave him like a heart-to-heart on what a podcast is. And then I worked with him like 7 months later at a different club. And he was like, hey, I go, how's that podcast? And he goes, I have like 1 million listeners. Is that good? I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like his podcast blew up. He is now doing 3 podcasts. That's where he makes all his money, is podcasting. It's insane.
He's even on advertisements for Patreon now. I'm on YouTube and I watch, and like his ad comes and like, hey, I'm Dan Cummins. I make podcasts from Patreon. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
They are everywhere. Yeah. And I knew that one, he would bring listeners and viewers because his fans are loyal. And two, what better thing to talk about? It was like how good a podcast can be, what you can do with this art form, what you can, how you can grow it. And more so, like, there's room for everybody. If you're not not everyone has to make $1 million on a podcast. You can do them because they're fun. You can do them. They're relatively easy to do on the basic level. You know, you don't need a bunch of expensive gear to literally get one out. You just need to have an understanding of how to do it. There's just and if that helps someone either start one or realize that that's a jumping point to something else, or, you know, I think part of what we're doing is saying, like, you can be interested in this, or you could do it too, you know, if you wanted to.
Exactly. And
couldn't have said it better.
Now, one last thing before we depart, I want to ask both of you these questions. Okay. You don't have to think about them really. I just wanted the first thing that comes to your mind. First question, if you could say to one thing to everyone on earth, what would it be? They could hear your voice, everyone on earth at the same time, what would it be?
Jobless.
Jobless?
You said jobless.
Oh, okay. Jobless.
I'll explain it later to him.
Jobless.
I mean, does it have to be like one word, or like
no, it could be a sentence or a monologue.
Yeah, I would probably go off on the fact that we're all connected, and that there's no way around that, and that it's one line of energy, and energy can't be destroyed. All the energy that's on Earth is here, can't be destroyed. It can only be repurposed. You're part of that energy. So maybe don't sweat everything. Maybe don't freak out about the littlest things. You know, maybe forgive each other a little bit easier, show some empathy, be a little kinder, and understand that we are all infinite beings having a finite experience.
Beautiful.
AKA jobless.
I thought you were going to say, I'm Sasquatch.
Yeah, if you could have anyway. I'm Sasquatch, everybody. Hey, how you doing?
I haven't started comedy. Yeah.
Okay, then my next question, and it could be either answered in two ways. What would if you had a short eulogy, what would it be? Or what would your epitaph be on your gravestone?
Oh, man.
You know, it'd be something like,
jalapeno Cheetos rule.
That's a good one.
There you go. Yeah.
I had a good time.
You mean the first part? I had a good time.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I would. My eulogy and my tombstone will both say speakinghighly.com for past episodes. Thank you.
All
right, everybody. Oh, Rachel, did you say yours? Have you said it before?
I've said it before.
Okay.
Well, we're new. We didn't hear it.
I don't even remember what it was, because I'm sure I don't know.
Because it was so prophetic.
Well, I feel that, I'm in the death industry. I feel that epitaph's kind of a big deal. I don't think it's okay, answer in 2 seconds.
Yes. Yeah.
This is like what people 200 years from now are going to be like walking through the cemetery going, oh, like
jalapeno
and,
Cheetos.
Jalapeno Cheetos. I take a picture of that. And put it on the internet. But, for my own, I want to think about it for a second. I've been thinking about it for years. Like, you think I could just answer now on the podcast? I'll get back to you.
So you're going to end it with complaining about how I conduct my podcast?
I feel like we didn't complain about you enough in this one. So yes.
All right. Yeah, let's end this. Rachel, is there anything that I didn't cover that you're going to be upset about me later?
No, I don't think so.
Are you sure?
I was here. Okay, here's something I'm curious to ask Indy, especially if this is your wheelhouse. What is the ideal length for a podcast?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, man. The ideal length for a podcast should be as long as the conversation is.
Okay. Very diplomatic answer.
But also, it's because of the way people consume podcasts.
Right.
It's not necessarily all at one time, like watching a movie or whatever. It's like, it can be 20 minutes in the car, 20 minutes on the way home, 20 minutes at the gym, 20 minutes on the way to the gym, whatever.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of podcasts, like I watch YMH, and that's usually at least 2.5 hours a week, which is a lot. And I scroll through it and I find where they talk about clips, where they'll put up a clip or something that's really funny, and I'll just scroll until I see a clip, and I'm like, oh, I'll watch from there. So it's just whatever you want, whatever you find interesting, it's like wherever that naturally ends, it should naturally end there. You know, I wouldn't want to like extend a conversation longer than it needs to, like kind of what we're doing right now.
All right, Snyder, you're off the hook on this one.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. It's become unnatural, I guess.
You're unnatural. Get that tattoo.
Sure.
Unnatural.
All right. Here's our really awkward ending. Here we go.